imagine that there's people out there that have already written papers on how much digital hoarders that we, as a society that we become, because if everyone's taking like 100 photos an hour on their phones, like I always wonder about that, like especially here in China when people are just taking photos of absolutely everything.
And you're paying for cloud storage, so you never come up against like your phone is going to complain if it's full, but cloud storage is just going to start billing you more.
Right, and if you're taking, I mean, I've sat down with friends that are like, hey, look, I took some photos, and you're like, oh, okay, great, and you know, a half an hour later, there's like 300 photos of them standing next to a sign.
Right.
And I'm like, what are you doing with all this stuff? Like, just forget about wasting my time of sitting here looking at these photos with you. But like, where is this all going? Because I'm sure most people aren't thinking of like, where is this digital graveyard where it's all floating off to?
Right, yeah, this server farm. And which, the more we were building up our own little hard drive empire, I think our next step is to get a cabinet and start plugging drives in, because we have, with the addition of the last 2 drives, I had to go in and like reorganize how everything is put in the room, because the way they were stored was like they were totally cooking each other, because I had, like, when it was one drive, I could just plop the one drive behind the behind the computer. When it's 6 drives, they're all cooking each other. And so now they actually occupy a space in our studio, and that it's weird to think of the hardware. I mean, people do think of hardware, that's people's jobs.
Yeah.
But I was always a software person, and so like now the more I'm getting into like dealing with the physical hardware of what we're doing, it is like it's the whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, if most people are thinking, if it's not your job, you are thinking of it as like, once I press this button, it goes away. But when you're at the point of like, this is now actually taking up physical space in my house.
Yeah.
Like, it's not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing something that what we're doing, where we need to access that to create. If you're having a business, I mean, you know, if you opened up a 𝗖𝗵cie pizzeria, you're going to want to have those files of your invoices somewhere, and at some point, now that we don't use paper, like how from a business standpoint, how long do you have to hold on to, I don't know, 1,000 photos of your shipment of pine nuts that came in?
Right, yeah, and that all this information, it's no longer taking up space in the file cabinet, but it is taking up space. And after, especially with video files are still so huge, and they're getting bigger as we get actual.
8K like almost kills our computer every time.
Yeah, 4K is like, our computer's like, I'm 8 years old.
Yeah. Don't do it.
Hey buddy, I'm old. But that it still is taking up physical space in our world, which another thing that gets my goat is
the environment, the digital environment.
Well, it's killing the environment too, but that it's digital is still not a reliable form of storage. Like, analog is better storage. It's clunkier and more inconvenient, and it's more, well, I was going to say it's more fragile, but like if you're in a condition that's going to crack an album in half, a vinyl record in half, that's going to crack your hard drive in half, or at least
if you're like in an earthquake, if this building goes down now.
Right, the same things that an album would be susceptible, my hard drives would be susceptible to. But if I put the album away and don't play it every day, I can put it on in 20 years and it will still sound right. Whereas if I put my hard drive away and didn't fire it up every so often, that data would just have like disappeared.
That guitar I haven't changed the strings on that guitar in like 10 years.
Yeah.
And it's set in a basement for like 5.
Yeah.
And it still plays fine. I mean, it would sound better or be easier to play with brand new strings on it, but it still makes music that is good music.
Yeah, whereas this is why I'm so angry about this, is I'm having this Kindle issue with the books I bought are not accessible anymore by my a current account because but I had an old Kindle with all the old books downloaded on it, but I just plugged it in this week and it doesn't work anymore. Whereas if I had those 30 books on my bookshelf, I'd still have them.
Yeah.
And so I'm a Luddite this week. I mean, most times. I like technology, but it is like we're putting our faith in stuff that is more marketing than trustworthiness.
I see this every week since I
wish
watch.
I said that as a grammatically correct sentence, but you know what I mean.
Most of the stuff I watch on YouTube is comic books and music based.
Yeah.
And so both of those things are ingrained in it. The diehard people, even young kids, are getting that old original issue or the original vinyl or something. That's like when you know you're a real fan. Those are the people that are really talking when they slide out the vinyl. You're like, oh, now we're talking. Like that's the thing to have in your hand that people like covet. And granted, that's not what the world is anymore, but that's where you're looking at, like, are you a real fan of stuff? Is this throwaway stuff? Can I afford to lose my entire music collection?
Well, like, what do you own? And if it's digital, you've just licensed it, which is like, that makes me so angry.
Yeah.
It's not right.
And that's why you can find our music on Bandcamp. Not sponsored by anybody because they don't know.